Mortal Kombat has killed off its roster so many times that death in this franchise is less of a minor inconvenience. From hellfire executions to accidental electrocutions by your own mentor, nobody in this universe stays dead for long. So today, we're breaking down how every single Mortal Kombat character actually died, starting with the one that kicked it all off. Bi-Han. Bi-Han, the original Sub-Zero, has the honor of being the franchise's first major canonical death. After the first Mortal Kombat tournament, Scorpion caught up with him and returned the favor for, murdering Scorpion's entire existence. He burned him alive with hellfire, an ice assassin killed by fire, which is, not ideal. But Bi-Han's story doesn't end there. Quan Chi found his body in the Netherrealm and resurrected him as the corrupted wraith, Noob Saibot, stripping away everything he was. So Bi-Han didn't just die. He became someone else, entirely, but at least he got a second chance at existence. Goro wasn't nearly as lucky. Goro went 500 years without losing a single fight. 5 centuries of being the most terrifying thing in any room he walked into. 4 arms, 9 feet tall, champion of Mortal Kombat for longer than most civilizations last. Then, Liu Kang showed up and beat him. A Shaolin monk with no weapons, no cybernetic enhancements, just hands and feet. Took down the undefeated champion of half a millennium. Goro's entire legacy, 500 years of dominance, ended because one guy from Earth was really good at kicking. And that loss wasn't just embarrassing for Goro. It threw Outworld's entire invasion plan into chaos. Shang Tsung had been banking on Goro staying unbeatable, and now the tournament was slipping away, which is, not ideal when your boss is Shao Kahn, but at least Goro only lost a fight. Liu Kang wasn't nearly as lucky. Liu Kang, original timeline. Liu Kang is the greatest Mortal Kombat champion in history. Won the tournament, saved Earthrealm, beat Shao Kahn, and he got taken out by a cheap shot. Here's what happened. Shang Tsung disguised himself as Kung Lao and walked right up to Liu Kang while he was training at the Wu Shi Academy. Liu Kang engaged the disguised sorcerer, not knowing it was a trap. And while his attention was locked on the fake Kung Lao, Quan Chi hit him from behind with a magical projectile. That was all it took. Shang Tsung snapped Liu Kang's neck and consumed his soul on the spot. The greatest champion in the franchise, and he never even saw it coming. Kung Lao found the body. Later, a corrupted Raiden reanimated Liu Kang's corpse as a mindless zombie during the Deception era, which is, not ideal, but at least Liu Kang was an actual threat. The next character on this list, not so much. HSU Che-O Su Hao was a Red Dragon operative who infiltrated the Special Forces with one job: destroy them from the inside. He even had a cybernetic implant where his heart should have been, which is a little on the nose for a guy with zero loyalty. Jax eventually figured out the betrayal and ripped Shu Hao's cybernetic heart clean out in his Deadly Alliance ending. Though the game didn't make that canon, so Shu Hao somehow limped into Armageddon anyway. But here's the real kicker. Designer John Vogel openly expressed his hatred for the character. The man was so disliked by his own creator that Vogel wanted him erased from existence, which is, not ideal for the resume. But at least someone mourned Shu Hao. Just kidding. Nobody did. Especially not Mavado, his Red Dragon buddy who had his own problems to deal with. Mavado was a disciplined Red Dragon warrior, trained in combat traditions that stretched back centuries. He could fight. He could strategize. He had elastic ropes that let him fling himself around like a violent bungee cord. None of it mattered. He showed up to the Battle of Armageddon, fought Kenshi, scrapped with Johnny Cage, squared off against Ashra, and then died in the pile with everybody else. Zero fanfare, zero cinematic, just another body in the blender. And honestly, Armageddon was exactly that, a blender. You toss in every single character on the roster, hit puree, and see who's left standing. Spoiler, almost nobody. But at least Mavado got a few swings in before the universe hit the reset button, which is more than we can say for the next guy. Draman is a Netherrealm demon who showed up in a couple of games, did basically nothing of narrative importance, and then presumably died at the Battle of Armageddon alongside everyone else. That's it. That's the whole story. Here's the thing though, he's a demon from the Netherrealm. Can a Netherrealm entity actually die? Or does it just sort of disperse like an angry cloud? Nobody knows. More importantly, nobody's really asking. But if Dramon's ambiguous non-death left you underwhelmed, the next entry is the exact opposite. We're talking about the Dragon King himself, Onaga. Onaga didn't just die once, he died twice, and both times it took an absurd amount of effort to make it stick. The first time around, Shao Kahn poisoned him. Not in battle, not in some dramatic confrontation. Poison, the most powerful being in Mortal Kombat history, taken out by whatever the outworld equivalent of slipping something into someone's drink is. Which is, not ideal for your legacy. But Onaga came back. He possessed Reptile's body, became virtually unstoppable, and forced the entire roster to collectively panic. Raiden, Shang Tsung, and Quan Chi hit him with everything they had simultaneously. Didn't work. It took Shujinko defeating him in direct combat while Nightwolf simultaneously bound Onaga's soul to the Netherrealm. Two separate operations, physical and metaphysical, running at the same time just to keep one guy down. But if you think coordinated cross-dimensional takedowns sound excessive, wait until you hear how Kung Lao went out. Kung Lao didn't actually die when Shao Kahn hit him with that spell during MK3. Everyone thought he was gone, but the guy just quietly retired to live peaceful life, which is, the dream. Then the Deadly Alliance murdered Liu Kang, and peace stopped being an option. Kung Lao trained under Bo Rei Cho, sharpened every skill he had, and went after Shang Tsung to avenge his best friend. He lost. Shang Tsung killed him in direct combat, and Onaga later resurrected his corpse as an undead puppet. He gave up everything he wanted to avenge someone who died the exact same way he was about to. And now, we need to talk about the sorcerer responsible for both. Shang Tsung, the soul-stealing sorcerer, spent centuries consuming thousands of souls to keep himself alive, and in the end, he got killed by a corpse. You can't make this stuff up. Shang Tsung technically has two deaths in the original timeline. When Raiden released his godlike essence to destroy Onaga, the blast presumably killed both Shang Tsung and Quan Chi. But canonical texts note it's unknown whether they truly died. Which is, not ideal for closure. Armageddon settled it. Shang Tsung was clawing toward the Pyramid of Argus when Liu Kang's zombified corpse intercepted him. The reanimated champion grabbed the sorcerer and held him in place as a stolen youth drained away. He reverted to his withered form and died right there, pinned down by the undead body of the very warrior whose soul he'd stolen years earlier. Every single consumed soul was freed upon his death. The guy who built his entire existence around stealing souls gets ended by the one soul that refused to stay gone. Liu Kang got the last laugh, and he didn't even need to be alive to do it. But if you think a sorcerer getting karma'd by a zombie brutal, wait until you hear how Motaro went down. Motaro stood nearly 9 feet tall, had 4 legs, and possessed reflective skin that made him completely immune to projectile attacks. Every fireball, every energy blast, every ranged move in your arsenal just bounced right back at you, which is, not ideal. In the original timeline, he served as Shao Kahn's personal extermination unit during the Earthrealm invasion, proving he wasn't just a wall you couldn't hit from a distance. He was a wall that would also murder you up close. But here's where the might fall. In the original timeline, Shiva killed Motaro despite everything that made him terrifying, and by Armageddon, things got even worse. A mysterious Shokan curse had stripped away 2 of his legs and removed his reflective skin entirely. The unstoppable centaur became a regular bipedal guy with 0 of the things that made him dangerous. From unkillable boss to cursed, nerfed, and dead. But if you think that's a rough way to go out, Nightwolf's exit hits completely different. Nightwolf's death is about as straightforward as it gets in this franchise. No tricks, no betrayals, no ambiguity. Just a man choosing to die so everyone else could live. In MK9, Sindel had been resurrected and corrupted by Shao Kahn, and she was tearing through Earthrealm's defenders like they were made of paper. Nightwolf saw the writing on the wall. A conventional fight wasn't going to cut it, so he channeled lightning through his spiritual daggers, summoned a massive beam of light, and performed his ascension fatality on himself and Sindel simultaneously. No hesitation, no dramatic last words, just sacrifice. It's one of the most unambiguously heroic deaths in the entire franchise, which is saying something because this series doesn't hand out clean, noble endings very often. But if heroic sacrifice is one end of the spectrum, the next entry is the complete opposite, because Noob Saibot's story is what happens when death doesn't make you noble, it makes you worse. Noob Saibot. Most characters on this list die once. Bi-Han decided that wasn't enough. He already died as Sub-Zero, murdered by Scorpion after the first tournament, and dragged into the Netherrealm. Quan Chi resurrected him, but not as the man he was. Whatever came back was something else entirely. Noob Saibot, a wraith stripped of humanity, bound to the Brotherhood of Shadow, which is, not ideal. In MK9, he served Shao Kahn faithfully, while quietly running his own agenda behind the scenes, because apparently, even in death, Bi-Han couldn't stop being shady. Here's the thing that makes his death genuinely strange. Can you kill something that's already dead? Bi-Han died as a man, got twisted into something worse, and then that version got destroyed too. 2 deaths, 1 soul, 0 peace. But if you think dying twice is rough, wait until you hear how Liu Kang's mentor accidentally became his executioner. Liu Kang, MK9 timeline. This is arguably the most tragic death in the entire franchise, and I don't say that lightly. Throughout Mortal Kombat 9, Liu Kang was untouchable. He defeated Shang Tsung, he defeated Quan Chi, he defeated Kintaro, he defeated Shao Kahn. Every single villain the game threw at him, he put in the ground. Nobody could stop this man, except Raiden. In a desperate struggle between mentor and student, Raiden's lightning collided with Liu Kang's fire, and the two energies created a catastrophic reaction that burned Liu Kang alive. The greatest champion Earthrealm ever produced wasn't killed by a sorcerer, a demon, or an emperor. He was killed by the one person trying to protect him. Raiden was so consumed by guilt that he literally surrendered to Shao Kahn, believing himself unworthy of continuing the fight. The Elder Gods then possessed Raiden's body, healed him, and used him as a vessel to deliver the final blow against Shao Kahn themselves. But that doesn't undo what happened. Liu Kang survived everything and died because of a mistake, which is, not ideal. But speaking of Shao Kahn getting what was coming to him, let's talk about how that actually played out. Shao Kahn conquered realms the way most people order takeout, casually, repeatedly, and with zero regard for the rules. But there's one rule even an emperor can't break without consequences, and that's Elder God law. Here's the thing. He invaded Earthrealm and started merging realms without actually winning Mortal Kombat. That's the one thing you absolutely cannot do. The entire tournament system exists specifically to prevent unauthorized realm merging, and this guy just walked in and started redecorating anyway. For most of the series, the Elder Gods are basically cosmic middle management. They watch, they judge, they do absolutely nothing. But Shao Kahn finally pushed them past divine indifference. They possessed Raiden's broken body, healed him, and used the Thunder God as a living weapon. No appeal, no second chance. Just cosmic annihilation from beings who hadn't lifted a finger in millennia. But if divine punishment sounds extreme, wait until you see what the Lin Kuei did to one of their own. Sector, designated LK9T9, was one of 3 Lin Kuei warriors forcibly converted into cyborg assassins. Unlike Cyrax and Smoke, whose fatalities tended to be mutually destructive, Sector's always left him standing. The opponent? Not so much. But here's the thing. Sector didn't get some dramatic final stand or a cinematic send-off. During the Netherrealm invasion of Earthrealm, Sector was killed, and nobody even noticed. Johnny Cage only found out after the invasion was already over. Just casually discovered that the cyborg had been destroyed at some point during the chaos. Who killed him? Under what circumstances? Nobody knows. The canonical materials barely acknowledge it happened. Sometimes you don't get a spotlight. Sometimes you just get a footnote. Speaking of Lin Kuei cyborgs with underwhelming exits, his buddy Cyrax didn't fare much better. Cyrax never wanted any of this. Unlike Sector, who practically sprinted toward the operating table, Cyrax was dragged into the Lin Kuei's cybernetic initiative against his will. One day, he's a human assassin with thoughts and feelings, and the next, he's a walking bomb with a targeting system where his personality used to be, which is, not ideal. His fatalities tell you everything. In MK3, the cyborg literally self-destructs alongside his opponent. That's not a combat strategy. That's a cry for help written in C++. By MK9, Cyrax programming fully takes over. No autonomy, no resistance, just a machine following orders. The guy who fought against his conversion ends up being the perfect example of why it works. But if you think a cyborg losing his humanity is brutal, wait until you see what happened to the 4-armed nightmare that is Kintaro. Kintaro is a 4-armed Shokan of Tigrar lineage who served as one of Outworld's most terrifying mid-bosses during MK9's story mode. Massive, brutal, and built like someone stacked 2 tigers on top of a professional wrestler. On paper, nobody should be able to touch this thing, but Kung Lao did. The Shaolin monk that spent most of the tournament living in Liu Kang's shadow walked up to a 4-armed tiger warrior and beat it in tournament combat. No tricks, no backup, just a razor-edged hat and monk hands. 2 arms versus 4, and Kung Lao still won. This fight single-handedly validated Kung Lao as more than just Liu Kang's rival. Before Kintaro, he was the other monk. After Kintaro, he was the other monk who could kill you. Which is honestly the scariest kind of person. But Kintaro's bad day is nothing compared to what happened to Reiko. Reiko's entire family died as prisoners during the Kafala War. He was just a kid. Survived captivity for months until General Shao raided the camp and freed him. After that, Reiko devoted his life to the general, becoming his most loyal soldier. So naturally, the universe rewarded that loyalty by destroying him piece by piece. In the MKX comic series, Reiko became Havok's blood god, which sounds impressive right up until it gets him killed by literally everyone. Kotal Khan gutted him, Mileena broke his legs, Ermac tore his head clean off, 3 consecutive destructions handed out like party favors, which is, not ideal, even by Mortal Kombat standards. Being systematically dismantled by 3 different people feels uniquely awful. Most fighters only get killed once. Reiko got a whole assembly line, but if you think that's a rough way to go, wait until you hear how Mileena's story ended. Mileena technically got everything she wanted. Empress of Outworld, the throne, the title, all of it. And she still managed to lose it all. After Shao Kahn's defeat in MK9, Mileena inherited control of Outworld, which sounds impressive until you realize nobody actually wanted her there. Her reign was so unpopular that she had to hire mercenaries just to keep the lights on. Kano, Tanya, Rain, basically anyone willing to fight for coin rather than loyalty. She wasn't running an empire, she was running a tab. The civil war against Kotal Khan went about as well as you'd expect when your entire army is held together by paychecks. D'Vorah captured Mileena and executed her with a single venomous kiss. Instantly lethal, no trial, no last words, just done. Her inability to inspire genuine loyalty sealed her fate long before that kiss ever landed. But if Mileena's death cleaned up Outworld's politics, Quan Chi's death is about to blow the lid off something much worse. Quan Yan, shock cheats. Quan Chi built his entire career on one skill, making dead people do what he wanted. He resurrected Scorpion. He resurrected Bihan. He formed the deadly alliance with Shang Tsung and helped assassinate Liu Kang. Every major tragedy in the franchise has this guy's fingerprints on it somewhere. He was the puppet master who never got his hands dirty enough to face real consequences until he did. In the MKX era, specifically within the comic series, Quan Chi was finally killed. The necromancer who spent decades exploiting the dead, binding souls, and pulling strings from the shadows got to experience the one thing he'd been dishing out to everyone else. Which is, not ideal. Here's the thing. Every resurrection he ever performed was a transaction he never expected to pay back. Turns out the universe keeps receipts. But if you think a sorcerer getting what he deserved is satisfying, wait until you see what happened to his boss. Shinnok. Shinnok is a former Elder God, and if you know anything about Elder Gods in Mortal Kombat, you know that killing one is basically stated to be impossible. They exist beyond conventional mortality. They just persist. And Shinnok leaned into that hard. Every time the guy got defeated, he came back. Banished to the Netherrealm, came back. Beaten by Cassie Cage and decapitated, his head was still alive and talking. You literally could not get rid of this guy. So Liu Kang didn't try to kill him. In MK1's New Era timeline, Liu Kang simply stripped Shinnok of every ounce of power he ever had. No abilities, no influence, no threat level whatsoever. Just a former Elder God sitting around being nothing, which, for a being who once challenged the very fabric of reality, might genuinely be worse than death. At least death has dignity. Shinnok got something far more insulting. He got ignored. But speaking of characters who definitely didn't get to just sit around, let's talk about a soldier who went out on her own terms. Sonya Blade. Sonya Blade had been fighting for Earthrealm since the very first tournament, literally day one. She's one of the original roster members, and across decades of conflicts and interdimensional invasions, she never stopped showing up, which makes her death in MK11 hit different. During a mission to destroy a Netherrealm keep, Sonya made the call to detonate the explosives while she was still inside. No dramatic last stand, no ambush. She chose to end it on her terms, taking the threat out with her. Here's the thing. This is almost exactly the same energy as Nightwolf in MK9, who sacrificed himself against Sindel, burning his own soul to stop her. Two of Earthrealm's most devoted warriors, both deciding the mission mattered more than survival, but Sonya's hit harder because she'd been around since 1992. That's not just a character dying, that's a franchise pillar choosing to go out with purpose. She didn't lose a fight, she won one. It just cost everything. But if you think a heroic death is the worst Mortal Kombat can offer, wait until you see how her lifelong nemesis finally got taken off the board. Kano. Kano is the cockroach of Mortal Kombat. You squash him, he scurries away. You throw him off a building, he brushes it off. Sonya reportedly killed him during the events of MK4, and that should have been the end of it. But Motaro found his body and saved him, because apparently even centaurs have a soft spot for Australian criminals. This went on for decades. Every time someone put Kano down, he'd slither back into the next game like nothing happened. The man dodged more death sentences than any character in the franchise. Then MK11 came along and said, fine, we'll try something different. Sonya shot a past version of Kano directly in the head, and because that younger Kano never lived long enough to become present Kano, the current version just vanished, erased from existence through temporal paradox. You can't dodge a bullet that hits you before you even learned how to dodge, which is, not ideal for a career survivalist. But if you think a crime lord getting deleted by time travel is dramatic, wait until you hear what happened to a literal god. Raiden. Raiden is a god, immortal, unkillable, the eternal protector of Earthrealm. And none of that mattered, because the thing that destroyed him wasn't a punch or a spell. It was guilt. In MK9, Raiden died fighting Shao Kahn. The Elder Gods possessed his body, healed him, and used him as a divine puppet to deliver the killing blow, resurrected in about 45 seconds. Which is, not ideal for your mental health. But here's where it gets complicated. During that same fight, Raiden accidentally killed Liu Kang, his own student. Lightning met fire, and the guy Raiden was supposed to protect burned alive in his arms. That moment broke something inside the Thunder God that immortality couldn't fix. The guilt didn't fade. It festered. It corrupted him into Dark Raiden, a paranoid, ruthless version of himself willing to cross lines the old Raiden never would have touched. This wasn't possession. This was an immortal being who couldn't forgive himself, slowly rotting from the inside out. Then, in MK11, Dark Raiden was erased from reality entirely through temporal intervention. Not killed in battle, just wiped clean from the timeline like a typo. If you think a god dying from sadness is dark, wait until you hear about the character who made a career out of killing everyone else's favorites. D'Vorah. D'Vorah is the franchise's most prolific assassin. She personally executed Mileena with that venomous kiss in MKX, climbed the political ladder in Outworld like it was nothing, and served as an increasingly dangerous player in both military and political affairs across 2 entire games. And after all that killing, after all that scheming, after watching basically every other character on this list eat dirt in one way or another, D'Vorah just didn't die. Available canon doesn't document a confirmed death for her. She appears to survive clean through MK11. In a video about how everyone died, she's the cockroach of the roster. Everybody else got stabbed, burned, erased from time, or sacrificed themselves to a crystal lady. And D'Vorah is still out there somewhere, probably plotting, which is, not ideal. But if you think an unkillable bug is hard to wrap your head around, wait until you hear about an elder god who willingly chose to stop existing. Cetrion. Cetrion is an elder god, daughter of Kronika, the titan who literally controls time. And in MK11, she was revealed to have been working for Mommy the entire time, a divine sleeper agent hiding among the gods. Here's the thing. When Kronika needed a power boost for the final battle, Cetrion didn't hesitate. She willingly sacrificed herself, channeling every ounce of her divine energy directly into her mother, just handed over her godhood like it was a set of car keys, which is, not ideal if you're the one evaporating. But here's where it gets complicated. Pre-battle dialogue in MK11 hints that Cetrion didn't actually die. She may have merged with the hourglass itself, her essence becoming fuel rather than being destroyed. And that raises a question the series has never properly answered. Can an elder god actually die, or do they just change addresses? Because Cetrion's sacrifice isn't just a death, it's the battery that powers up the final boss of the entire game. Every bit of divine energy she gave up went directly into making Kronika strong enough to reshape reality, and someone had to stop her. Kronika. Kronika isn't a god, she isn't a sorcerer, she's a titan, the single most powerful antagonist Mortal Kombat has ever put on screen. Her ability wasn't fighting or magic in the traditional sense. It was time itself. Every timeline, every reset, every version of reality you've ever played through existed because she allowed it to. And when things didn't go her way, she simply erased everything and started over. That's the thing about fighting someone who controls time. You don't just need to beat them, you need to become something that transcends the rules they wrote. Enter fire. God Liu Kang forged when Raiden poured every drop of his divine essence into Liu Kang's revenant self, fusing God and warrior into something entirely new. The martial arts champion from a fighting game in 1992 became the god who shattered a titan in 2019. That's a 27-year character arc, and it ends with Liu Kang burning Kronika into crystal with divine flames and shattering her where she stood. No resurrection, no ambiguity, just crystal dust. The biggest death in Mortal Kombat history, delivered by the guy who started it all. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.